Breathe in. It's a nice day out. It's a nice day out. And I say breathe in not just because it's a nice day out, but because of what I want to talk about today. Hi there, guys. Welcome back. Warren here. We don't often escape childhood without scars. I'll say it again. We don't often escape childhood without scars. And I'm talking about both the emotional and the physical scars. And then that brings us to unintended and intended scars. Because even if they're intended or unintended, that doesn't negate their impact, right? Because our consideration should be impact over intent. Might not have intended to harm our children in the way we raise them. But again, that doesn't excuse the impact left on them, left on us by that raising. And I know that it runs the gamut of what the factors are. We're talking about culture. We're talking about institutionalized mentalities and belief systems. And they run the gamut, and none of us are immune to them. We all go through them. And again, though, those things in and of themselves should not let, and perpetrators is a strong word, but us humans, it doesn't let us off the hook when we err, especially when we hurt others, kids. And I was thinking about it, and I want to talk about 7 aspects, I should say, or 7 considerations, better word, 7 considerations for navigating life, not escaping childhood without scars. And the first one is that everyone has scars. We all do. Like I said earlier, we can't escape them. They're inevitable simply because we're humans. But once we accept that, though, that on its face is a bold statement, a good statement. But what does it mean? What are we going to do with the fact that we know we have scars? Are we going to sit idly by and woe, it's me, and nothing good will ever come from it because, I can't let it go and it's just troubling? And don't get me wrong, I'm not in any way undermining or making light of the fact that those questions are tough for some folks. But that brings me to number 2, though, which is that instead of always looking at our scars only in the negative, let's look at our scars as reminders, and that includes the negative and the positive. So number 2 is looking at our scars as reminders. And I say in the negative because when healthily done by seeking professional help and friends and family who we can trust, when healthily done, it is okay to talk about it negatively because that helps us to grow. It helps us to grow. And that's what we seek in the end is personal growth. So let's not be so caught up in ourselves, and I'll come to why I'm saying don't be so caught up in yourself and the woe it's me. It will make sense if it hasn't in shortly. And then that number 3 is the healing process. Remembering that the healing process is not a sprint in no shape or form. It is indeed a marathon. And remember that. And on that journey of healing, understanding not just that it's not a sprint, but a marathon. In addition to it not being a sprint, but a marathon, understand that it will take time, patience, and that's patience with the universe, that's patience with ourselves, that's patience with everyone around us, which includes or encompasses the universe. But understanding that it will take time and that, like I alluded to earlier, during that healing process, if it gets to where it is not getting any better for you and it is chronic, it is affecting your quality of life, seek professional help. Seek professional help in your healing process. Don't do it alone. And there's so many resources out there, folks. So please don't. Okay? Don't do it alone. You can get help, many resources. And then that brings me to, as part of that healing process, number 4, which is positive perspectives, right? Take those negative things and make them into positive perspectives. And you say, Warren, how do you do that? Oh, by the way, if you're new here, Warren here. If you're coming back, welcome back. But you would ask, but Warren, how do I do that? How do I take this and make it positive? And it's kind of simple. You take the things that you've been through and that you have grown and overcome, and you share your process with others. You do outreach. You give a listening ear. You're more empathetic in dealing with it, because now instead of being sympathetic and just hearing what the person has to say, you are more empathetic, and now you put yourself in their shoes because you can relate. So number 4 is positive perspective. And then the one, number 5, that we all fear the most, and rightfully so, it's part of our DNA, and that is being vulnerability. But that vulnerability encompasses stuff I've already talked about: seeking professional help, sharing with family members, and resources that are out there. But it's not easy, is it? It's not easy, is it, to open that door and to let people in? Because let's face it, we all have dumpster fires going on. Some of us multiple dumpster fires. So we all have dumpster fires going on. So I say that to say this: it is hard to step outside the box and into the arena. It is hard. But we have to, as part of the growth to overcoming the scars that were intended or unintended. We have to face our vulnerability, and that means talking to people, right? So the professionals, family members, this resource. We have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And again, it's not easy. It's not easy. I know it sounds so philosophical and hopefully true. And usually things that are, some say they're a little squishy, but even if it sounds that way, we really have to understand that until we face the man in the arena, the rest of it really doesn't matter, okay? Or the woman in the arena, that person in the arena. Until we do that, the rest of it really doesn't matter. And that brings me to self-care. Self-care, learning to love ourselves. And I'm not talking in the narcissistic way. I'm talking about remembering that this is a journey. This is a journey. And as part of the journey, there are going to be obstacles. There are times when we're going to trip up. I don't think there's any perfect path recovering from life's scars, and especially those from childhood. It's definitely not going to be easy. There are going to be obstacles. But remember to self-care, splurge on yourself responsibly every now and then, and take some time for yourself. Go for a walk, and I talk about going for walks and getting away and getting back to yourself. And I know I can hear the comments. Everybody thinks going for a walk and getting outside is the fix. It is not the fix. There is no cure-all. It is a part of the process. Reading, journaling, splurging on yourself responsibly, like I just said, taking a walk outside to clear your mind so that you can get clarity in the essentials. We have to remember self-care. And again, not in a narcissistic way, but what we need to continue our journey healthily, because this includes even our diets. Even our diets should be considered on this path. Just because certain things, and I don't want to get into it because I'm in no way a professional in the subject, but there's certain things that we need to add or subtract from our diet that will help with the clarity that we seek and that growth. And you might ask, how does that help with emotional and physical scars? And they do, because as you are working through that process, you become more equipped to not necessarily forget, but to deal with balancing those scars with your realities. And that brings me to our woman's perspective for this episode, and it comes to us from one of my favorite people on YouTube and a rock star in her own right, and that is Maggie McCormack. And Maggie had this to say on the subject, I think. Take a listen.
Your freedom is just one shift in perspective away. Just one little shift can just completely free you from that cage. I can tell you that you absolutely can change. It is so worth the effort.
So there you have it for this episode, folks. Thanks, Maggie. And thank you, folks, for stopping by and giving a listening ear. And until the next conversation, be good out there. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you then.